Good morning, colleagues. I think we can start now. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another insightful session with ICBIS, your interest group for bibliographic standards in South Africa. Thank you for choosing to join us today. My name is Meshia Mariana, and I'm the chair of ICBIS. I am with Ingrid Henrisi, our secretary, who will be moderating the Q&A as well as doing a closing remarks. Today's presentation is titled Document Process Automation and Artificial Intelligence in Data Extraction and Metadata Creation. The presentation will explore the transformative potential of document process automation and artificial intelligence in data extraction and metadata creation. It will also discuss how manual data handling can lead to systematic inefficiencies and demonstrate how AI-driven solutions can significantly enhance accuracy, efficiency, and accessibility within digital library collections. This session will not only cover theoretical aspects, but will also showcase practical applications and benefits of using automation tools for intelligent document processing. Attendees will learn about the improved outcomes in digitization projects, including data validation and metadata creation. Before I introduce our speaker, please take note of the following housekeeping. Please mute your mic when you're not speaking. We welcome your questions and comments. Please enter them into a Q&A box or in the chat. And you can even raise your hand, you'll be noted. The session is being recorded and it will be posted on the Liasa News YouTube channel. Registered guests will receive the link via email and it will also be shared on ICBIS social media pages. Now it is my pleasure to introduce our speaker for the day, Nicholas Zimmer. Nicholas is the Digital Scholarship and Data Curation Manager at FC Tech, a leading African provider of hardware, software, and services for digitization and digital transformation. He lives and works in Cape Town, where he completed an honors degree in fine arts in 1998 and a research master's in fine arts in 2012 at the University of Cape Town. In 2005, he also completed a BA in education at the University of Cologne. Nicholas has a diverse background, having worked as an art teacher and headed the visual arts department at the German International School in Cape Town until 2008. He later became an audio specialist at the UCT Center for Popular Memory until 2015 and served as the manager of the UCT Libraries Digital Library Services Department for over 7 years until 2023. Colleagues, please join me in welcoming Nicholas Zimmer. Nicholas, over to you.
Thank you so much, Meshia. Let me just first of all get the screen sharing out of the way. We did a bit of testing earlier. Let's see if this can get this show on the road. Can you see my screen, everyone?
Yes, perfect.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you. Thanks so much for the introduction. And it's a real pleasure and honor to be here this morning. Really looking forward to taking you through some of the things that I've been putting together with the help of some colleagues as well. It's a really interesting dynamic team that I've been part of now for 1.5 years. And yeah, I'm here to share a few things. So first of all, also to say, sad that we can't be in the same room, but at the same time, what an amazing technology to get us all together from across the country. If we see each other in Durban, that'll also be really nice towards the end of the year. Myself, my colleague Thomas Schmidt and I will be there And yeah, like every year, there'll be a stand, so it'll be great to see you there. I prompted ChatGPT to give me a joke about metadata. Um, it it said, it made a really bad joke for me. It's not even showing on the screen, but it said basically, why did the computer keep dating its documents? Because it realized that metadata is the key to a good relationship. That was a really lame joke, but what I really loved is this very often quoted quote about metadata being a love note to the future. Those of you who haven't heard it yet, it's really been quoted a lot, but initially it's from the blog by Jason Scott from 2011, and he says it's a love note to the person after you or the machine after you, where you've saved someone that amount of time to find something by telling them what this thing is. I just thought that's a really nice introduction on the topic of metadata. So the other thing that I looked at, in preparation for this presentation is just the Lyasa values, and I just thought it was really interesting to see certain terms pop up again and again. One thing being, providing leadership excellence to the LIS profession, nationally and internationally, promoting freedom to access to information, development and growth of the Alliance profession, and committing to the development and growth of South Africa through excellence in librarianship. I just really pondered on those for actually a couple of days while I was putting together the slides. These terms, development, growth, and excellence, especially in relation to digital collections, to the archives, to all those materials that we're custodians of, and that I think are struggling to find their way into sort of the digital public. And there is actually very much a possibility technically to work on this. So I put it in these terms. South Africa's rich history and diverse stories can become accessible to anyone, anywhere, and at any time. Our cultural heritage can be preserved for future generations, and every librarian, archivist, and knowledge worker can begin to play a pivotal role in shaping this legacy. There are three sort of overarching ideas there. One of empowerment and ownership. So digitization or digitizing collections preserves our history and stories that otherwise might be forgotten. So one really important thing is that this work must be kept within our local communities to ensure that the stories are told accurately and respectfully. We need to maintain control over our collections. By doing the work of digitizing and enriching collections ourselves, we ensure that the context and the nuances are preserved, and we prevent the commercialization and paywalling of our cultural heritage. I want to keep this talk very positive, so I'm not going to now go into all these case stories of where this has already happened or this is in the process of happening. I'm sure you've got your own ideas about that as well. Then the second big topic is the notion of global accessibility and impact. So our collections definitely have the potential to reach a global audience. It would not only increase their visibility and their importance, but also rightfully place librarians and archivists at the center of this global network of researchers, historians, and enthusiasts. So digitized collections often lead to international collaborations and cultural exchanges, bringing new perspective and insights into the local heritage. And thirdly, the topic of professional growth and recognition. So digitizing and enriching collections with metadata provides valuable skills in digital preservation, metadata standards, and archival management, enhancing professional growth. Being at the forefront of such transformative projects brings recognition to the GLAM sector, instilling a sense of pride in our work and its impact on both local and global scales. So in summary, these three big points, I would say it like this: by taking charge of the digitization process, enriching our collections with metadata and making them openly accessible can preserve our heritage, empower our communities, and connect with a global audience. It's not just about technology. It's about storytelling. It's about education and about creating a legacy. Through collaboration, we can bring our valuable collections to life and share our rich history with the world. So I've mentioned the term digitization a lot, and there's a reason for that, of course, in relation to metadata creation, document process automation, and so on. So there's going to be a lot of jargon that I need to bust. So quickly, as an insert here, I'm focusing on enhancing digital archives and libraries with AI. GLAM work generally includes the creation of metadata. There's no way around it. In fact, we should be very passionate about it. And I'm sure there are lots of people in the room already that have this as their daily bread and feel passionately about sufficient metadata, good metadata, excellent metadata. Metadata creation is just part of an overall process called digitization, and arguably one of the most important parts of this process. Digitization can include scanning or other format conversions. It doesn't really have to. We think of the whole world of born digital, where, that notion of digitization, that narrow notion of digitization being just what we mean by scanning, doesn't even apply anymore. So scanning, or that narrow notion of digitization, is really only one early step in the whole digitization process. And I've got a couple of visuals to make this a little bit more accessible. So drawn a big green box around one way of looking at a sort of document-centric digitization or digitalization process end to end. And I've drawn a little thin blue box around the image import or the scanning part. So just to really drive home this idea that what we mean in the narrow definition of digitization is really just a small component. And what I want to talk about in this talk is really the big end-to-end process, where we're going to see that various artificially enhanced technologies can do a lot for us. So one of the drivers, of course, for digitization has always been this idea of preservation or digital preservation. And maybe just almost like a trigger warning for libraries and archivists, I'm going to show one or two professionally distressing images just as a reminder. The fire in the stacks at UKZN Law Library in 2019, the fire at UCT Library Archives in 2021, the fire at Cape Town Parliament 2022. All those are very, very strong arguments for digitization with the focus on preservation. But we all also understand by now very well that simply digitally imaging things is not the full breadth of what digitization for preservation is all about. There's also metadata to be taken into consideration when one's talking about digital preservation, in particular the premise data dictionary, and a whole lot of other relatively complex things that could take us on a tangent now. So I'm just going to refer you to a wonderful video by one of my dear colleagues, Onati Zibulwana. It's on YouTube. Check us out on YouTube. We have a channel, FC Tech, and it's a nice explainer about where the different metadata standards sit in relation to digitization. Just to conclude the part about digital preservation, because that's only that one half of digitization. I thought this was a very, very good quote I recently came across on LinkedIn by William Kilbride from the Digital Preservation Coalition. Archives and digital preservation are co-evolutionary. They're growing together and with each other. I think that also ties back very nicely to the ever-evolving profession that we're in. Often there are fears around, losing one's job through digitization. I think nothing could be further away from the truth. I think actually the archives and libraries profession is becoming ever more relevant in the digital age. And then there's, of course, digitization for access, right? A little side note, please don't use photocopiers for digitizing the poor books and other materials that get smashed onto these very energy-hungry beasts from another time. Even though they can make scans, it would be really nice to see other things being used than photocopiers. There's, for example, even feeder scanners nowadays that can handle materials really gently. I picked this picture because there you can see that the technology has moved on a lot. You can see those yellow ribbons inside one of these feeder scanners. They can actually pick up paper that's as thin as toilet paper and not tear it. So anyway, this is a little link to an article where an archival digitization project is being performed with historic manuscripts being put through a feeder scanner. I myself would have years ago sort of clapped my hands over my head and gone, that's impossible, but the technology there has also moved on. And that actually takes us to the main topic. Look at all these wonderful access points that the libraries in South Africa, libraries and archives in South Africa have already spun up all over the country. I've made a short little survey. So for the ETDs, DSpace is very widely used. There's a couple of others that are coming up, but there's almost no institution that doesn't have a repository, an open access repository up for electronic theses and dissertations. Same with research data. There are very, very few universities left that don't have a research data repository. Not so much on the archival descriptions and the digital collections, though. I've put the table together for you to see a little bit more in green and red what that looks like. So of the 26 universities, you can see ETDs all in green. There's almost no gaps there. And colleagues, please forgive me if I've made a mistake here or there. This is real, desktop research. You're so welcome to correct me and update. Let me update this. So this is just a quick overview. So why is that? Why is there this sort of gap? And I would argue that it's just very hard to deal with all these sort of less standardized things. It's all very well. A university thesis is, to some extent, much like the next one in terms of its format. Archival descriptions are way more heterogeneous, and putting up a digital collections site is way more involved than using a sort of standard repository as a service, like with Figshare, and in some cases, DSpace. So let's look a little bit at some of the opportunities here. So even NAIRS, the National Automated Archival Information Retrieval System, that is also based on Atom access to memory, has been having serious challenges. So how can we, almost expect to be better than what's happening nationally at an institutional level? So there are challenges, no doubt. So The impacts of digital transformation on memory making and cultural representation, as a colleague put it really well in a message to me just a day or two ago when I mentioned I'm doing this presentation. Manual data handling causes systemic inefficiencies. It's just very, very slow and very error prone. We also hear of horror stories where digitization projects have happened, years and years of digitizing are lost because of a server crash. You know, and also even if the data survives, often the metadata is not there at all, or there's not enough of it, or it's not good enough, or it's in the wrong format, etc. Where we see a lot of potential with document process automation and AI. The potential there is great for data extraction, for metadata creation, and the benefits would be that we have more and more validated metadata. So there was a survey recently by the ICA, the International Council on Archives, about what people believe the most impactful AI tools will be for archives in the next decade. And right at the top is automated metadata tagging with 39%, blockchain-based archiving, and natural language processing. And to some degree, this automated tagging and the natural language processing is what I'm going to be talking about now. So away from now digital imaging into this, let's jump into this digitization in the broader sense, digitalization part. So just to bust some jargon. So what is OCR? Optical character recognition. In very simple terms, and that's really all we need, is it's the conversion of scanned images of text into machine-readable data. That's really all it is. It's taking something that's just a picture, just pixels, into something that can be read as text by a computer. So inside that, you know, you have such a thing as an OCR engine. All you need to imagine there when you follow that little diagram on the left is that term refers to the complete system. And so that system that does image pre-processing, text recognition, post-processing. What these engines produce, and you don't have to know this, but it's good to see when you come across this term, is an HOCR file. So that definition includes, it encodes text, style, layout information, recognition, confidence metrics, all sorts of other information. So you don't handle those files typically, you don't see those files typically, but that's what's going on in the background. And now for the purpose of this talk, artificial intelligence is interesting to us because it can be used to enhance OCR outputs by improving accuracy and automating complex tasks. So pre-AI OCR had a sort of had certain limitations. Now, when you put that together with AI, you start to get some very, very powerful results. Now, ICR, Intelligent Character Recognition, is a subset of OCR technology, and that's generally set up to recognize handwriting. And it's become very, very, very good. Even those sort of free tools or privately usable tools like ChatGPT. I don't know if anyone in the room has maybe tried out doing some handwriting recognition, but you can use such a thing as ChatGPT Vision, for example. Take a photograph with your phone of a page of your diary or your meeting notes and immediately have it transform those into a transcript, and you can even start reformatting it with a few simple prompts. That was not even imaginable a few years ago. So I finally made it through to the part where a colleague of mine is going to do a little practical demonstration via video. I hope the technology will bear with me. So one more thing before we jump into the little video that Joe made for us. Just to make it very, very clear again, our source can be a scanner, but it can also be an email, or it can be a whole repository full of files that have been scanned in previous digitization projects, or documents that you have been diligently archiving away, but that are just sitting there. So you can have a whole multitude of sources that you then take through an intelligent document processing platform. So it would start with an ingest, and we'll see this in the video just now. It will start with basically acquiring those documents from wherever they are. And we'll move on to image processing, recognizing whatever is on there in like via OCR, for example, or ICR. I'm not going to go into further jargon, but we've bussed some of this, and go through a verification process, and finally to an export to. And then again, you can have a multitude of targets. You could have a set of folders and subfolders. You could have a repository system. That could be DSpace, it could be Atom, or it could be just a server where that you, for instance, set up some rules around what gets digitally preserved and what gets pushed to a website. There's a huge amount of options there. So just to get that, whatever screen you're looking at now can have inputs from all over and set as its outputs all sorts of other kinds of systems. All right, let's jump in. Let me set to play.
Nicholas, so we are
I hope you can all hear.
uploading a document, simulating a document that could be scanned, it could come from anywhere by email. There's one mechanism of having a PDF already. I'm going to start the batch that it uploads. I'm also going to do a second one. That one's uploading. That has been completed. Now the documents are being processed in Effisoft. So if we look at the screen, we can see that a new document just came in. It also shows us documents that has possibly finished before or that still needs some human intervention. Documents that has been finished could have gone through automatically and could have been untouched by humans and went straight through. So first of all, on the left-hand side, you will get an indication of the status and count of documents in a specific status. And then if we look at the bottom, we can just see what's the total sort of review validation backlog of 1 day, an hour, what's the timelines for the documents. Then we will have on the grid, we will have the ID of the document. We'll then have the batch name. We will also have the status of that specific document, and we will have a priority assigned to it. If we need to push something through quicker, that can be escalated. What's the import date and when was it last modified? At the bottom right, you will see that there's the process on how the document gets processed. So it gets imported first, and then the HOCR content gets created on page processing. In this scenario, we are using advanced cognitive services to extract the data because there's handwriting samples. And then it is assembled based on the extraction that it did. Then the system tries and automatically classifies the document based on the document type, see what document type it is. Then based on the document type, it will then know which fields to extract, because each document type might have some different fields. And then it tries to validate the document automatically by checking if there's anything outside of the business rules. For example, the length of an ID number, that must only be digits. You can compare information, lookups on tables. And if any of those fail, it will go into validation mode for a user to actually review. If not, and it passes all the validation, it will export and will be available in the endpoint system. Now that we can see that both the documents came in, both of them are showing review. It's ready for validation, which means that they need some attention from the users. The first document that I've highlighted now is one that would have gone through automatically, but I put on force validation for the document to stop. When I double click on it, it will then open up the document. First, on the left-hand side, you will get a view of the documents associated with this batch and the document type that was classified as. If I look at the next one, document type, there could be multiple document types associated with the batch. And then on the right-hand side, you will see images or the physical image that was submitted or scanned. Then if we look at the fields are based on the Dublin Core standard. It's not all the fields because some of them are system generated and it's not something that's captured necessarily. However, they will be part of the structure at the end. In this case, this is just an example to show that if there's keywords and that there are keywords data that can be automated. And also as part of this, what I wanted to show was that there's extraction. You can see where it extracts the value on the document itself. And we can also see that there's a date picker. Also it can extract the dates or default the dates or look for specific rules around the dates, or can be selected. Then there's the date issued. Then also a key thing for me is that there is drop-down boxes where you can select multiple or specific drop-downs or options. Then on the format medium, change it up a little bit to say, let's look at something that they might use where they will select the standard medium. Then what is the data format that they received it in? If we go down, we can see this was an HTML. And then if we look at the medium of materials, this was digital content hosted on a server. So all of these are options that we can combine into the standard where there's only one format medium as an example required, but they do have options to choose multiple options. So I just wanted to show that it's very powerful and we can do whatever we want. And then looking at the side, if I look at the abstract, we can see we did a whole paragraph on the description to actually give to get an automated extraction of the summary of this document. When this is complete, I can just say validate, and when I press validate, to stop. Okay, so if we refresh this, we can see that that document has been exported and it's completed through all the modules and has finally been exported. So if we look at the next document that came in, this example is to show that if there's no keywords and there's nothing clearly to identify it, but although we do have the cognitive services, we can still extract the data without doing manual data capture, which helps a lot with speed, with spelling, and not making mistakes. So in this case, I just want to highlight some components on, for example, how the components can be selected. In this case, the title, which I'm just going to go to the image itself, highlight, select, and it actually picks up the value completely. Then the author, this is John R. Phillips. You don't pick the R because it's funny. We fix that manually. Then we continue to the next field. Which dates was this issued first? That was in 1911. Then the temporal is 1011, and the second one was 1933, and this was in the Transvaal. So the key thing is that we're only clicking on the values on the image to actually grab the values and not type them. Again, as mentioned, there's a drop-down for the language. You can select whatever medium you want. This was manuscript. It is physical pages with ink. and the materials used was paper and ink. And if we want to get the description, we can clearly go to this little sticky note, highlight the values that we want. We know that John R. Phillips is missing, so we just add the R, and we are ready to process this. And it picked up all the values ready to be processed, and now I can validate and send this through. Now if we refresh, we can see that the document is also finished and is exported.
Okay, fantastic. So that's on the, I'm sure that you'll have lots of questions in the Q&A part. I'm just going to show the next much shorter video about what's now happened after the export. So
Nicholas,
on to the next slide. And clear you that part. We're in SharePoint now, which we set up as an example because all of this is just quickly put together for a demo. We don't have, a particular institution's Atom installation or DSpace installation, so we just use SharePoint as a demo.
I've now logged into my digital archive on SharePoint just to see how the logic works. So this has been integrated into SharePoint. You will see that I've got all my fields associated with that I've captured. And also at the far right, you'll see that DC rights has been added because that is something that could have been added in the background. And then secondly, you will see that the medium has actually been combined as we selected multiple, but it was medium that was actually combined into one specific field with all the values that was chosen. And then if we look at the first document, if we look at this URL, I'm going to click on this. Now I can see my documents and all the data that's with it. If we go back and we look at the other document, the bigger document, and we are able to open it and review the document itself, still with great quality as the original.
All right, that's the two little demo videos. I'm giving a round of applause to my colleague Joe for putting that together in a very short space of time. Just to give a little bit of context, Joe got the brief a couple of days before making this whole putting the whole demo together, and I said, okay, we need Dublin core fields, and he said, okay, no problem, and he pulled together this whole set up specifically for a demonstration to show how it could look for an implementation where Dublin core is the metadata scheme desired. But it could, as you can see very easily, it could be any other kind of metadata schema that's set up, or indeed a combination thereof. So just a very quick recap before we hit question and answer time. I think this is my 5-minute call. Typical challenges in digitization projects over the years have been manual data handling leading to errors and inefficiencies, inconsistent metadata and poor data quality hinder the accessibility and usability of digital collections. There might be insufficient skills, especially in view of a sort of end-to-end view of digitization. There might be low levels of collaboration. So this is not to point fingers at all. It's just to say often catalogers haven't been involved in digitization projects, yet they would prove so incredibly valuable for the very reasons that we've been talking about. And there might be little strategic commitment. So for example, there might be not much understanding further up in management structures about what's actually involved in data curation and preservation, specifically in view of metadata. So the benefits of automation and AI for optical character recognition and intelligent character recognition, as we've seen, are the automated extraction of metadata fields. I don't know about you, but when I first saw Joe just click on a handwritten document and it immediately populated that field with a perfect transcription of what he clicked on, that just blew me away completely. You can also imagine that running almost entirely by itself in the background until it comes to a validation stage. You can even set how accurate or how confident the system must be before it starts to check with a human. So there's always a human in the loop, but you can adjust the degrees to which you want the humans in the loop. So consistent and standardized metadata, of course, improves searchability and interoperability. There are benefits in terms of efficiency, so reducing manual data entry, automation of repetitive tasks, so freeing up staff for higher value activities. And then, of course, the accessibility, so the whole value and impact discussion. So instead of having pixel clouds, or just gigabytes of static documents and images lying around on servers and on websites and so on, suddenly you have searchable, editable, and accessible digital text. That's a revolution for digital scholarship. So it facilitates better user access through enhanced search capabilities and digital interfaces, maybe some of which we haven't even thought of yet. So the AI-driven automation in document classification, data extraction, and metadata assignment, key features being OCR, machine learning models, and the ability to export everything as structured data into any sort of target system. Could be Atom, could be your SharePoint, could be both. It could be the IIIF, so the image interoperability framework, which is really a very powerful system to consider for standardizing how your media and your metadata are shared on whatever other site you want to build. And so typical scenarios for this kind of implementation is either the institution, be it a gallery, a library, an archive, or a museum, would rent a platform, for example, month to month, and do all of this themselves, or the institution could sign up for this kind of automation as software as a service or metadata as a service if you want, and give the service provider, number one, the source system, what we saw on the left. So it could be a watch folder or a repository. So basically access to what needs to be transformed. And then on the other side, the target system. So it could be your digital collections repository or whatever. And then in between, what kinds of metadata you want to extract and fill in while you're transacting. So for example, if it's a scanning project, a back scanning project where you're digitizing things, how do you want metadata? What kind of metadata do you want to be taken off of those pages? Joe spoke of grabbing the text off the pages. Whether it's handwritten, as you saw, these systems are so good now. They can even read old, faint ink pen skewly written across an old piece of paper. Not a problem. So highly configurable. So the impact on digital scholarship is obviously enormous. It enables collaborative work on digital projects and large-scale data exploration. It also enhances the pedagogical value of your collections. So students can engage, researchers can engage with primary sources. It's a sort of a revolution waiting to happen. So OCR and AI technologies revolutionize document processing, making digital collections more efficient, more accessible, and valuable for research and education. So in very, my time is I think I might end up just on time. So in summary, metadata as a service is a technology that can speed up and simplify an inherently complex process. The systems are web-based, so there's not even a need for an installation. Artificial intelligence, so for example, Google Vision or Azure Cognitive AI, returns highly accurate HOCR results, and you are now a select group of people on this planet that know what HOCR means. There's no need to move data or metadata around. It can stay wherever it is, and the processing happens. There's an integrated interface, so all staff will be familiar with the same graphical user interface. What Joe was working on is something that is so intuitive and well known to everyone involved. Within a couple of hours, everyone is up and running. And there are minimal infrastructure requirements. No, as I said already, no installation. So especially if you look at it as software as a service or metadata as a service, you can be up and running in a very short space of time. So this is my last slide, I promise. Recommendations are: do a pilot project to test it, to refine automation processes. Consider training staff to utilize AI-driven tools effectively. Invest in scalable digital infrastructure, and explore and adopt AI-driven solutions generally to create more integrated and resilient digital archives, collections, and libraries. Thank you for your attention. Stay in touch with us. I mentioned the YouTube channel. There's the website from FC Tech, and if you want to email me, there's my email address. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much, Nicholas, for the insightful presentation. Without waste of time, I will then hand over to Ingrid, who will be moderating the Q&A. Ingrid, over to you.
Thank you, Masha. Thank you, Nicholas, for that very insightful presentation indeed. There is one question that has come up from Patricia. And Patricia says, thank you so much for the great presentation. I might have been distracted, but I missed which AI tool was being demonstrated. Is it part of Atom?
Great question. Thank you. So no, it's not part of Atom. The tool that you saw in the demo is a part of a software package called FEsoft, called Transact. But it used to be called Kofax, and I think it's due to be called something else in future. I want to sort of stress that that's not so important. There are quite a few products out there. I think when I was encouraging you to sort of pilot something or test something, maybe just get in touch with us, and then I can put you directly in touch with somebody who can speak about these things maybe a little bit more in detail. But yeah, these kinds of tools are sadly not really part of the typical libraries and archives environment, at least not in such a way that we could freely make use of them. So that's part of my argument, is that when the big services come in and say, oh, we'll do everything for you, you typically lose control over your collection or your material, and everything gets locked behind a paywall, and also no one's the wiser in terms of all the skills necessary. What I'm advocating for here is quite taking the other route and really looking at upskilling the staff and making use of systems to do it yourself, rather than letting someone do it for you and losing control. So yeah, in the video, what you could see was Effisoft Transact, previously known as Kofax. Okay.
Okay, colleagues, are there any other questions, please? Now is your time to make them known. We'll just give people a chance to think of their questions.
There's a hand up, I think.
Yes, I see there's a hand. Go ahead.
Might be muted.
All right. Colleagues, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you so much, Nicholas, for this important presentation. We learned a lot. I heard you mentioning the AI tools that can be used for metadata extraction and creation. So I'm just going to give this more like a scenario type question. So you're working on a D space. You know that we are uploading things manually. If we're talking about EDTs one by one or other research outputs. So I wanted to know, do we have any AI tool that is existing out there in the industry that one can use to extract data from documents? Say maybe you've got a database or maybe your journal articles and stuff like that, and then extract data from there, and then it throws this information in the D space, creating those the metadata automatically without having to. Yes, that's what I want to do. Okay.
That's a brilliant question, and that's exactly what this can do. So on the one hand, you say, okay, let's, for example, say here's the folder or the server with the thesis documents, right? And on the other side, you say, I want these documents to go into DSpace and I want this metadata to be filled in. You simply set up the rules inside the system. We saw Effisoft Transact in the demo. There's a huge configurability. You can kind of configure it to do anything you want. So you can say, look for, on the title page, look for the author, look for the title, look for, look in the following pages for an abstract, etc. And it will do everything for you automatically. So it'll populate the metadata for you automatically, and it will also move the data as part of the process, as part of an export process into the repository for you automatically.
Okay, if I'm still audible, the name of the tool
I can
again.
hear you.
The name of the tool again.
So in this case, it's called Effisoft Transact. But really, as I say, there's a whole lot of tools out there, and I would rather encourage you to sort of continue the conversation with us, because so you might get a fright if you start trying to find a price for such tools sort of as one institution. I mean, some of these tools are extremely expensive if you individually as one institution want to make use of them. And there might be others that are free, but they're totally, it would be a very bad idea to try and use them at scale. So like, for example, ChatGPT can do some of these things, but only a tiny part of it. And it's more of a toy. And it's fine for playing around with for personal use. But you would never sort of try and use it for your particular purpose in earnest at work. You shouldn't. But in principle, that's why I mentioned there are these principles that we need to learn about. That in principle, it's very much possible for a computer to read handwriting and to put that read handwriting into a field, right? So as I said, if you want to make use of sort of enterprise level tools, such as the one that I demoed here, it would be a good idea to consider a software as a service solution, where you say, okay, let's talk to some experts who can help us set it up, and then we basically work as validators, right? We set up. You don't lose any ownership over the process or over the data at all. You simply say, these are the rules that we want, and these are the roles that we want to assign. So you would still hit publish, as it were, if that's the button, if that's the name of the button. And you would still eyeball what the machine has done for you, right? And as you saw in the demo, Joe picked up that little R on the name that had been sort of squeezed in there, the machine hadn't seen. So in the handwriting. So, things like that happen. And that's why you set a sort of confidence level, and you say, I always want to see, before something gets published openly, I always want to see what's happened, fix it if necessary. The machine can also highlight certain things, like where it didn't find something or it's not sure. You fix it, and then you hit publish. So it will speed up your work and make your work much more pleasurable by hundreds and hundreds of times.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much.
No, thank you for the question.
Okay, any more questions, people? Colleagues? I don't see any more questions coming. This is your last chance before we start closing this session. Okay. All right, colleagues, if there's no more questions, then we'll start closing off. We want to say thank you very much to Nicholas for this really insightful presentation. And we thank you, Apelele, for always your assistance at the back office and assisting the users. And we thank, of course, the participants and for coming and enjoying our session. And please provide feedback in the feedback form that we shared in the chat. And you always can just drop us an email. There is a liasa@gmail.com email address if you want to have any suggestions of what other webinars you'd like us to organize for you, what topics you'd like to hear about. Your feedback is always very welcome. Okay, with that, I thank you once again and thank everyone for their participation, and wish you a pleasant morning ever further. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.